Hi everyone, it's Ivan checking in here. It's been several months since I put anything out on this channel, so I want to give you a little bit of an update. The most recent video, I think, is from 4 or 5 months ago, and it was my second interview or conversation with Marina Moore Weems. And I know that many of you who have subscribed to the channel, you have subscribed because you were curious about anything related to Robert Moore. And yeah, many of you, I'm very appreciative to you for reaching out. And I've been receiving emails about how much it's meant for you to have these interviews with Marina, and that is brought peace to your heart to understand that Robert Moore didn't actually, in fact, commit any of these crazed murders. And it's an important thing for a man's legacy to be cleared in this way. So thank you for reaching out and making it feel like the efforts that we have made have mattered and that they've meant something. I want to share a couple of updates on the Robert Moore situation before I share a little more on where I'm going with this channel and the work, because there's going to be some more YouTube videos launching very soon. I have some interviews up my sleeve. So, one of the things that I've done based on recommendations from a couple of you is that I've reached out to William or Bill Schnoebelen. I did manage to get a response, but then he dropped out from the conversation. So we talked about reaching Bill or William because he is a former Satanist, essentially. He's been in Wicca and Satanism, been inside of the Mormon Church and the Catholic Church and Freemasonry and all of these things. He's made clear in his authorship, his books that are all stirred into one big pot of madness. And he has been recommended as somebody who may actually know all of these occult symbols that were on the site of, or basically the home of Robert Moore. I hope to get him to speak, but if any of you has a line through to him that you are, an open line, then I welcome you supporting me in that effort. Because I've lost that line, or it's been closed for now. I'm sure he's a very busy man. He's been widely featured on various podcasts lately. So that's one thing. Another thing that has happened is that more and more, well, it's not that many yet, but I can see the trend. There's been a couple of people who have been reaching out from the Jungian world. And obviously, Robert Moore was from the Jungian world. And what I'm hearing is that they are experiencing that their Jungian framework is not really holding up in the face of what they're seeing in their clients. And more people are talking about demonic activity, demonic oppression, or demonic obsession. And so I get these emails, which I find very interesting based on the unfortunate events around Robert Moore and his wife. It seems like, first, that there's a proliferation in this kind of activity. Second, that more and more people are acknowledging the existence of this kind of activity, this demonic activity, these entity attachments, these second heaven beings, to use that language. I'm intrigued by this. I think it's really something that's happening. I've been talking about a demonic proliferation in the world. There's more demonic activity, and more people are talking about it plainly. demonic activity in AI, demonic activity in the entheogenic world, demonic activity for sure in our politicians. Demons are basically running this world as far as I'm concerned, because our leaders are behaving like them, like demons. So yeah, I think that just about covers what is relevant to mention about Robert Moore and that situation. If any of you has an update, or indeed that you can get me in touch with Bill Schnoebelen, then that'd be great. The other things, well, I've been very busy with family matters this summer. I took my family, my wife and son, to Hong Kong in May and June, because we hadn't been there for many years. My wife is from Hong Kong, and well, Hong Kong and the United States. So she's basically a Hong Kong American or a Chinese American. And so we traveled there to introduce ourselves as married to the clan. I think I say clan because it was a good 40 people in the room that were associated or members of the family. So it's kind of mad to have such a big family in Hong Kong now. And then we, of course, we introduced our sweet son to them, and he was much loved by everyone, which was beautiful to see. And then after that, we have also been occupied with clearing my childhood home, and it's been a lot of work, physical, emotional, spiritual, just a lot of work. And truth of the matter as well is that I'm deep in my spiritual journey with Jesus and God, Christianity these days. One of the goals that I had for my Norway trip was to take the fam on a road trip in pursuit of revelation, and revelation found me. So that's great, because that relates to the next iteration of Reclaiming the Throne, a Christ-centered Reclaiming the Throne. For those of you who are still holding or monitoring that thread or that narrative, because that is coming. And then I also want you to know that now, as I'm resuming activity, my childhood home is being sold these days, and I feel like I can look outwards a little bit more. Like, it's been very close to the hearth of the home and just keeping the family close. But now I start to move a bit out, expand my focus to you guys. And I have 2 interviews that I'd like to introduce you to in this next week or 2. One is the interview with Andrew Apenick, that I think that's his name. Yeah. That is finally ready. We couldn't do that with all of those technical difficulties we had the first time around. The recording just wasn't good, and the second interview I think was way better, and is very fascinating with his stories from Hollywood and aid work and the music industry. This guy has seen a lot, and I am somebody who is in love of the truth. And when I saw his story, and he actually friend requested me on Facebook, and I started to get up to date on his story, the things that he's seen, I wanted it to get to you guys based on the work we're doing together on understanding Robert Moore and the potential influence of demonic activity. It seemed like a really relevant conversation to have, and so I'll get that to you on Tuesday. I think you'll find that to be very interesting. And then I also have another interesting conversation that I think I will get out to you next week, with a man that I used to have a connection with him back when I did the first iteration of Reclaiming the Throne. He was a big proponent of the map that I had, and his name is Michael Rice, and he's doing men's work. And yeah, we just had a very interesting conversation about corruption and occult activity and healing modalities, optimizing your health. And that's one that I was a bit unsure what to do with it, because now that I'm moving towards Jesus way more, I've been in this conversation with myself. Should I be featuring other spiritual traditions and other cosmologies? And the answer is yes. I'm going to publish that, even though he isn't in a Christ-centered spiritual frame himself. So I think that's going to be fun. And then that said, I've been thinking a bit about whether to create another YouTube channel for my Unbreakable Substack and my Unbreakable membership, to start talking more about the things that are happening in the world with regards to the rise of digital dictatorships and AI, and a clear proliferation of demonic activity and the transhumanist agenda, and all of these things that many of you are aware of by now, and which reek to high heavens of dystopia. I'm not sure whether I should separate that out from my men's work or not. I haven't quite decided, but I'm going to start doing more videos on that, because one of the things I just, when I realized that Jesus was really calling me, I I got excited that I could find a church and find a new community and find my people, because I had quite appreciated how Christians have been showing up during COVID. Um, More of them seem to have their senses intact than, shall we say, liberals who practically wanted to forcefully inject people and put people in camps. So I was watching Christians back then, and it made quite an impact on me. And I came to Christ, and many of my friends have as well over these last years. My wife has, and we're figuring out what that really means. Though my love for truth is absolute, there's nothing that's more important to me than truth. Well, aside from family, I suppose, but you really can't have a good family without truth. You can't have love without truth. It's just not possible. And so what I've seen after the Charlie Kirk incidents is very little truth. There's a deception that is spreading in the Christian world. And there's many things that I want to speak about: New Apostolic Reformation, the Seven Mountains Mandate, Dominion Theology, the Antichrist agenda. And these things are just more important to me these days than men's work, which is why I'm trying to weave them together in the next iteration of Reclaiming the Throne. Because I was involved with the men's work from really early on, and I see now that it's become more mainstream. What I was doing like 15 years ago, what I was doing 10 to 15 years ago, just isn't interesting to me anymore. Because I don't care if you can share vulnerably about your feelings and stand in the forest with a bare chest and in a circle of other men looking each other in the eyes and being like primal together. I don't care about those things if you don't really have any sense of understanding, a general understanding of what is happening in the world. And yeah, why should I do men's work if a digital tyranny is being built around me? What is sharing vulnerably about my shame in a circle of men matter in a 15-minute city with social credit score and absolute tyranny? I think people have their priorities wrong, and I see things differently than I did. And the men's work I want to do has to involve this kind of understanding of what is moving in the spiritual realms. And yes, while I walk with Christ these days, there's so much that I see different to the people who are gathering around this, what I call a Charlie Kirk death cult. It's practically necromancy, where you're worshiping a dead person and you're making him into a saint and practically the second coming. And it's blasphemous and it's vulgar, and I can see where it's going. I can see where it's going, and it's going nowhere good whatsoever. And I want to talk more about these things. So I don't know if I see that some of you are listening in live. Thank you. I appreciate seeing you here. If you have any comments on this, I'd love to hear what are you thinking that would serve you the most? Should I set up a new channel where I speak about these things? Maybe some of you are more interested in my men's work and maybe conversations about these things. In a channel that's only that only has that content. I'm still in the process with understanding where to go with that and deciding where to go with that. So I really welcome any input. But we are living through times of great deal of revelation. I see evil moving. I also see goodness moving. And as men who are resilient, which is not the case for all men these days, but I'd like to work with men who are resilient. As men who are resilient, we cannot allow ourselves to have our sense making and our basic sense of reality undermined by deceivers, by warlocks, like the shadow magician, for those of you who were following my archetype work. Because if a warrior, if a strong man is led to believe that the world is different than it actually is, he could be led to do things that can be fatal to him and his family and his country. And we don't want to go there. We want to be in reality. And this is a conversation that I want to have with you all. And so I will be heading deeply into that soon. But yeah, look forward to these interviews with Andrew, exposing many of the things that have been happening inside of Hollywood and the music industry and aid work. I mean, the way that the aid work is being used for human trafficking and preying upon the vulnerable is very sad. And yeah, it's a tragedy that we have that level of corruption and malevolence working. But also, the music industry and everything he has to share is really interesting. And then more interviews coming up soon after that. So I hope you're doing well given everything that's happening, and love any contributions you might have. And I'll see you in upcoming videos. So have a good one. Talk soon. Bye-bye.